Okay, stop what you're doing, get your pen and paper out, because today we're going to be looking at the most unknown Wonderkids of FM22. These are players with Wonderkid potential that most people probably still aren't aware of, and at the very least, at the start of Football Manager, most of these players would have been completely unknown unless maybe you were a fan of XYZ team. So there's plenty of players to get into. I'm sure most of you won't have heard of a majority of these guys, so there'll hopefully be a player for everyone. So with that being said, let's run the intro. We've got a lot of players to look at. Hi everyone, Jake here for FMSCOUT, and as I said in that intro, today we're going to be looking at some of the most unknown Wonderkids in FM22, both currently but also when we first came into FM22, we were like, who are these guys? Most of them you might not know still. We've got a team of 11 set up in a formation, so we're going to get into all of that in a second and start looking at them, but before we do, as usual, I've just got to ask you guys, if you enjoy the content, if we can get 350 likes on this video, I'd greatly appreciate it. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Ring the bell, comment down below which hidden Wonderkid you like the most. If you want to, you can also find my channel linked in the description. And last thing before we get into the video, a shout out to the sponsor of today's video, and that is Spitch. Spitch is a fantasy football app available for people in the UK and Ireland over the age of 18. Unlike normal fantasy football, which takes place over the course of a full season, Spitch is focused on weekly tournaments where you select your side for each week. You can then enter both free and paid for competitions, all of which have their own unique rewards. As you can hopefully see me doing on screen right now, you can pick your team, select your captain, and use the statistical analysis within the Spitch app to help you select your side. To get involved, you can check out the link in the description. We'd of course greatly appreciate it if you would do that. From there, you set up your account, you'll have to register, you might have to show your ID to prove you're over the age of 18, and then you're ready to play. You can potentially win some rewards using your fantasy football knowledge, so thank you again to Spitch for sponsoring, and let's get into player number one. With these lists, we of course have to start off with a goalkeeper, and today's one doesn't start on an easy name. It's Julian Aguirre Zabala. I can't believe that they've got this guy, and then a few years ago they obviously had Kepa Arrizabalaga. It seems like they've got a bunch of names that are hard to pronounce in the net over at Bilbao, which is where you will find this Spanish 20-year-old, in their B team to be precise. Julian has been at Bilbao for quite a while, and whilst he might not be a Donnarumma-style goalkeeper at this age of 20, he is still a nice option. Maybe not for your Chelseas and your Manchester Uniteds of that kind of ilk, but if you're a lower-level Premier League team or a high-level second division team looking to challenge for the higher spots, you've got a player here who could potentially grow into a top-quality goalkeeper. Every player on this list has Wonderkid potential. They've all got the ability. His price range is fairly steep, I would say, but keep your eye on him. Maybe at some point as his contract starts to get closer towards its end date, you can pick him up. His attributes have a good base set to build up from, not lacking too much in any particular area, so maybe this is your new favourite goalie. So player number two comes from Feyenoord. Now some of you might be thinking, Jay, this is meant to be unknown Wonderkids, how have you not heard of Gertrude? Well, to be completely honest with you, I had heard of this guy, and I think many people who follow the Eredivisie will be aware of this man. However, there's a lot of people who haven't really caught on to this guy's talent. We're of course all aware of the defensive talent at Ajax and PSV. I mean, you've got Timber at Ajax, who is seemingly everyone's fan favourite this year, but Gertrude is a very good option for a player that can cost you about £5 million. He's very well developed at the age of 20. The Dutchman can play in a variety of positions and has a great base set, When you start up your game, he'll have already had near enough 50 appearances for Feyenoord, so it's not like you're trying a player who's only ever been in their youth teams. He's a great option, and I think I'd probably argue he's maybe the most known in this list, but I still think he's a top player, one that we haven't actually included in one of these Wonderkid videos so far. He has Wonderkid potential, and he is top draw. Okay, player number three, but before we get into him, I'd like to let you guys know a bit more about my own channel, which you can find linked in the description. Whilst the FMSCOUT videos are more informative, my channel is a bit more Let's Play style. We also have a few rebuilds on the way, so if you're interested in more Football Manager content, feel free to check it out. I'd greatly appreciate it as we make the push for 7,000 subscribers. We're so close now. But for player number three, back to the video, we've got Andrew Omobamidele, who is an Irish centre-back playing for Norwich in the Premier League, although it seems like Norwich might not be there for too much longer. The Irish 19-year-old centre-back already has an under-21 cap and has played a few times for Norwich in the Championship, but people are starting to catch on to this man's talent now, and it is no surprise in Football Manager this is represented as well. Physically, very, very well rounded at 6'3" for a 19-year-old. Mentally, again, he's got everything he needs, maybe a bit of work needed on his aggression, but that composure, that decision making and concentration is at a level that many players would dream of. Positioning, marking, tackling, all at a phenomenal level too. He can head the ball. My one gripe with this guy would be, 50 million isn't too bad for a player in the Premier League with potential, but it's his passing, just because he has the player traits that seem to suit a ball player, and he has decent vision as well and decent technique, but that passing is a little bit behind it. So if you can focus in on that a little bit, develop that, you could have a top draw Premier League centre-back by the end of his development. Okay, player number 4, and it's starting to feel like the guys who helped me make this list have stitched me up here, because it's another name that is seemingly impossible to pronounce, but we're going to try. El Chadiale Bitishiabu. He's a French centre-back who plays for PSG and is a physical monster at the age of 16, and the fact he might even grow even more is super impressive. He's not the world's quickest, that is his weak point, but he is strong. He's 6'5", left-footed with amazing jumping reach, natural fitness of an extremely high level, and a valuation of about £7 million. It isn't too bad for the 16-year-old. He can head better than many players will ever be able to, but everywhere else he is let down a little bit. But then you've got to remember, he is only 16. He's got a lot of time to develop. It's going to take a bit of growth, a bit of training. He's got a lower base set in the technicals and mentals than many may have, but his physicals give him a very strong starting point. He's at PSG. He's obviously got some kind of talent. And Bitishiabu looks like he could be a very fun option if you can develop him a little bit. Another great young prospect that you can pick up for about that £7 million mark is Giacomo Faticanti of Roma's under-18s. The 16-year-old Italian has some amazing attributes right from the off, a good physical base set, but it's his mentals where he shines with bravery, aggression, determination, work rate. He's actually one of the better 16-year-olds in the game this year in my eyes, but he's one that not enough people are talking about. He's a player that can play both defensive midfield and central midfield, but saying that, he definitely does favour the more defensive roles in that midfield, so your ball-winning midfielder, your deep-line playmaker on defence. He's young with plenty of room to grow and mould him into the kind of player you want, and his valuation isn't particularly high for a player of this quality. I'm a big fan. He can go right to the top. Try him out if you haven't already. If you're looking for a cheaper, more defined option in that similar role, maybe you want to go for Raphael Onyadika. He plays for FC Midtjylland out in the Danish First Division. Valued at around £4 million, you're going to get a bargain of a player who is good with both feet, very strong physically, mentally and technically. I've said it a million times, but the Nigerian has a great base set. What I mean by this is he's got attributes of a very good level already, and then you can tinker and tweak the player how you would like. But if you're a team lower down in the league, in the top 5 divisions, he can definitely benefit you, and as your club grows, he will grow with you, and he could be that defensive stalwart in that midfield for years to come. There was of course going to be an Ajax player in this list, because it seems like every year we load up a new Football Manager game, there's 3 or 4 Ajax youngsters that come through the door, and this year we've got the 16-year-old Rico Speck Schneider. Now there's better Ajax Wonderkids that we could talk about, but this is one that I would definitely class as an unknown player. Technicals are pretty good for a 16-year-old, as are his mentals. His physicals are a bit weak, but they're going to get their biggest section of growth over the next couple of years. He is on a youth contract, available to approach to sign, but most of the time he won't want to leave straight away. He's a player that often, if he doesn't get a chance, will just sit in Ajax's development teams and never reach that potential because of how the way his attributes start. But if you can pick him up, train him in the right way, maybe in a couple of years you can use him, loan him out, eventually you might get to the point where this guy is ready to contribute on a first team level for your club. It might be a bit of a long shot with this guy, but with a bit of growth in his physicals, he definitely have the attributes to be a decent playmaker. So if you're looking for a new player to try out, Rico could be the man for your side. Another player of a similar nature to Rico is Marco Braga. I do really feel like I've been stitched up in this video with some of the names I've had to pronounce, but the Croatian attacking midfielder who plays for Hajduk's under-19s in the Croatian divisions is not too pricey at around £2 million in this save at least, and has some very good starting attributes in certain areas. He's 6'3" in that midfield with good jumping reach, good decision making, flair, technique, passing, vision, acceleration. He could be the real deal, and at the age of 16 it's hard to completely write him off just yet. Let's imagine in a few years the left-footed attacking midfielder is 6'4", his physicals have developed and balanced out to the point where he's quick, but he's not too lacking in the strength and stamina departments. His mentals will hopefully have rounded out a little bit, but don't make him him your captain with 1 leadership, and his technicals might have developed a little bit as well, meaning this guy could actually be a very good contributor, but you'll have to give him a bit of time. I don't think he's ready just yet, just because of some of the weaknesses, particularly in his mental game. I think you'll get a good player out of this, he'll help your side, and even more importantly, this man's on £5, help him out, give him a new contract, get him a move, he can't be sitting there on £5 a week. Now on to a fallen legend of the game, Isaku Abdul Fatahwu, when we started FM22, was the go-to must-sign player. He was playing out in the African divisions, you could pick him up for dirt cheap and straight away, I mean I don't have to speak for it, you guys can see, he is a top draw player instantly. Mentally needs some work, but those technicals are crazy good, and his physicals were amazing as well, and he was literally this kind of value that you can see in the top right. However, the man has now got his move into the big leagues, he's headed over to Portugal and to Sporting, where the 17-year-old is hoping to hit the ground running, but maybe if he doesn't, you can keep your eye for him and maybe sign him if your scouts recommend him. Left-footed on the right-hand side, he can cut in and cause tons of problems with those technical attributes, or you could play him right through the middle. Unless you're really into your FM Scout videos, he's certainly still an unknown player, but now that he's moved over to a more accessible league, I'm sure you'll be hearing more of this guy as the years go by. 2 players left here, and of course we've got to include the striker from Thailand who comes at a bargain price with some amazing attributes right off the bat, Suphaniat Muenta of Buriram United. Another one like Fatahwu that I feel like has made so many of these videos this year, but for most people who only have the key leagues loaded, Muenta is a player that might have never have came up for them. But as soon as he's in your save, he's one of those that you just have to sign for his value, good with both feet, good mentally, physically and technically, and can score goals right from the bat. Much like Fatahwu, he's been one of my go-to cheap Wonderkids of this year, so if you don't know about him, make a note as soon as you load up your save, sign him if you can. And finally, we head over to Belgium and to Anderlecht's under-18s, and that's where we'll find Mario Strowikins, and this is a Wonderkid I think we're going to be hearing a lot more about in the coming years, and one that we'll get a lot more used to in Football Manager. The Belgian is only 16 years of age at this point, valued at around £10 million, but he's got the attributes that make me think, you know what, with the right development, and I don't even think it would take too much, this guy can definitely be a top draw player because he's quick on that wing. But what I am noticing is his passing, technique, vision, dribbling, first touch is at a level that a lot of players would be happy to peak at, and this guy's got it at 16. We're looking at a very technically gifted wide player. Everything to me says that he's going to be a great option over the coming years of Football Manager. I don't think he's going anywhere. For now, he's fairly unknown, but going forward, I think we'll all know the name of Mario Strowikins. So there we go, guys. Thank you for watching. That was our 11 Wonderkids that we still think are super unknown and you should definitely know a little bit more about. Don't forget to like the video if you did enjoy, subscribe for more, and feel free to check out my content in the description on my own channel, where we're very close to 7,000 subscribers. A big thank you to our sponsors over at Spitch, but most of all, have a great day everyone. I'll see you next time. Goodbye.